Hey friends, this is the Mrs. Wolfie from our Half Acre Homestead, and it is Friday, March 6, 2015. What's going on? Well, I'll tell you what's going on. I'm going to answer some questions that I haven't been on the computer a lot, only because winter's been really hard on me this year, and everybody's telling me to rest, and I'm not sure I know how. But I am taking this time to re-edit some old videos. I know I've said it before, but I am re-editing old videos that have copyright issues on the music. And how I do that is I don't sit and go through the 1,000+ videos that I have looking for the offending 400 or so videos that have the old music. What I do is when somebody watches an older video and makes a comment on it, and I go to reply to the comment, or I go to say thank you for the comment, if I notice it's still the old music, I will download that right away, and I will take it off my list, and I will re-edit it and load it back up. So I appreciate all your help in looking at my older videos and bringing them to my attention. I want to get as many of those done as possible before the real busy season starts. If you look behind me, you'll see my little baby plants and stuff. The light is turned off for now until after this video, because all you would see is this bright, beautiful halo. And although that would probably look really cool, I'm no angel. So we'll be turning the plant grow lights back on my tomatoes and cabbages as soon as I'm done this video. What else? Oh, thank you so very much for all the wonderful birthday wishes for Wolfie. I was going to make something really special this year, and of course he wanted his lasagna. Well, it's his birthday, so what can you do? But he really enjoyed it, and I'm really happy. As a matter of fact, he enjoyed it so much, I had to reheat a second one that I had already put in the freezer. So him loves his lasagna, that's for sure. So let's get to some questions and some comments that I want to address. Let's start with the easy ones. Would you consider putting a small slice of ginger in each jar of your ginger pears or pears and ginger syrup? I wouldn't, only because you don't know how strong or how that piece of ginger will continue to strengthen in food storage. So my recommendation is you can try it with one of your jars and see how it goes 6 months down the road after it's been sitting on the shelf. But I recommend cooking the whole ginger in the syrup until it is the strength that you like, and taking the ginger out, and then you are safely keeping the syrup to your taste. Okay? But if you do add ginger to the jar, please let me know and tell me how it turned out. But I would wait and test it 6 months down the road. Someone asked me if I was sure it was wood pulp. Cellulose, isn't cellulose also vegetable fiber? We're talking about grated cheese here, and many other foods that have cellulose powder in them. I knew one of my subscribers worked in the pulp and paper industry in New Brunswick, and I forget which town that was. I spent a night on my honeymoon there. Anyway, the whole town stunk. It smelled like overcooked oatmeal. But anyway, my point is trees are plants, and that's the loophole that they use. Okay, because a tree is a plant, it is considered a vegetable, even though it's really not. Okay, but they consider wood pulp a vegetable fiber. And this person, actually there was more than one person who worked in the pulp and paper industry and lumber industry. This person emailed me and said that one of their main purchaser of their sawdust byproduct was the prepackaged food industry. So, yes, it's ground fine. Yes, it's been cleaned chemically. And yes, technically, it is a vegetable, cellulose fiber. But make no mistake, the cheap stuff, which is in everything, is wood fiber. Don't take my word for it. Do your own research. Okay. Somebody recommended that I add a can of cream of mushroom soup to my, I think it was my venison broccoli bake as a gravy base. I'm going to tell you, folks, very, very rarely do I buy canned soups. Why? Because I am the soup goddess. I make my own soups. And I used to be a huge advocate of storing up food that was prepackaged until I started reading labels. And the 99-cent instant potatoes had 13 ingredients and all those things. And I learned that although, yes, I do have some prepackaged food and some store-bought canned food, if I can make it myself and easily, then I don't, yes, homemade cream of mushroom soup takes a bit of effort, but it is amazingly delicious. So I thank you for the recommendation, but I really don't use canned soups. I may on occasion, but it is not something I do on a daily basis or a regular at all. I might use, if I were to buy canned soup, I might use it twice a year. If that. I can't remember the last time I bought canned soup. Okay, here's a couple of comments that I want to address only because they're a pet peeve of mine, okay? Make no mistake, folks. All right? The FDA and Health Canada and large chemical companies use every single loophole they can to flummox us into believing that the food we eat or that the additives they use in the food we eat are safe. That is not necessarily the truth. Think about this. Just recently, they came out, big surprise, saying that aspartame was not only not good for diabetics, it actually confuses the diabetic's body and does more harm than good. Just saying. People like Noreen from Noreen's Kitchen and all of us, we've been saying that for a long time. But you know what? The damage is already done. And so they've got people hooked on their diet sodas and all that stuff. That's what they do, okay? Don't think for a minute that just because it's allowed in our food and put on the shelf makes it safe. That is not true. That is just not true. Look at Kraft Dinner. Look at Kraft Dinner. It's got that weird toxic thing in that if you were to buy a box of Kraft Dinner in Europe or England, that would actually have a warning label on it. Not to give it to children, not to give it to children who have ADD, ADHD, or too much of it can create that, all that stuff. Folks, chemical companies, food industry, packaging industry, they're all out to do one thing. It's to get you to buy and consume so that they can make money. Now, having said that, I want to address the comment on my bouillon because someone said that my powdered bouillon, I shouldn't call it MSG free because I don't add MSG. I should call it no added MSG. Mince the words all you want. I did not put no MSG in there. And the bones and stuff I used for the broth were from my animals. No, I don't always buy organic feed. I only do that when I can afford it. Okay? But all the bones and the broth that I use from chickens to goats to pigs, whatever the case may be, they all come from my animals. And my animals don't get growth hormones. And my animals don't get all that stuff that industrial farmers have to use to keep their animals fed, healthy, and producing. Having said that, MSG is naturally occurring and is a basic building block of meat and bones. In fact, glutamate is in almost everything you eat. While you are extremely good at what you do, and I would kill to try some of your cooking, MSG is not a boogeyman and is in fact naturally occurring. I only have to say MSG is the boogeyman, along with many, many other chemical additives that are put in our foods. Okay? Naturally occurring MSG, just like naturally occurring nitrates in smoke when you're smoking meat, okay? Naturally occurring means the amount that is in the food is what is acceptable to your body, because that's the way nature, naturally occurring, designed it. That's the way it was designed by nature. When you take something that is naturally occurring and you bastardize it into a chemical compound and then add it to food, prepackaged food, or whatever the case may be, to the point where it is unhealthy, that's a whole other ballgame. And don't you think for 1 minute that chemically altered or chemically designed food additives are healthy. Don't you think that for 1 bloody minute. And don't ever assume that just because the FDA and Health Canada allows it in our food makes it okay. Just saying. So please, please, MSG that is added to food is not healthy. It may be okay. There's this phrase I really hate. It's called acceptable levels of toxins. By the way, those acceptable levels of toxins are naturally occurring. Okay? And that's the loophole that most chemical companies and food additive companies, those are the loopholes that they use for the acceptable levels of toxins that they add to our food, which already has acceptable levels of toxins. Okay? And most of our food, even the stuff coming out of the ground, has more than its parts per million for acceptable levels of toxins. Why? Because there's sprays and there's chemicals, herbicides, fungicides, all those things that go into the soil, remain in the soil, go on the plant foods. Always wash your produce, folks. Again, someone else said, thanks for keeping an eye out for us. We're talking about the yellow prussiate of soda that is in common table salt to keep it free-flowing and anti-caking. Thanks for keeping an eye out for us, but please be aware that anything can be toxic, poisonous, deadly if you ingest enough of it, including water. Our bodies are designed to safely handle small amounts of toxins, which is why people are able to build immunities to certain toxins. Again, those are naturally occurring toxins. And I gotta say, there ain't much naturally occurring in our food anymore. Okay? There is almost, if there's something that's naturally occurring, I'd like to see it. Okay? I'm not saying that I'm the end all be all, but I'm saying, folks, do not let big pharma chemical companies pull the wool over your eyes. Okay? You have no idea how many steps a chemical compound additive for your food goes through to get to your food. It has to be tested. And we all know that, everything is ruled by money. So, some people may be paid to look the other way or jig the numbers or whatever. Oh, and by the way, acceptable levels of toxins are a minuscule amount in one serving per day. So in other words, if you want cookies, the acceptable levels in prepackaged cookies, the acceptable levels of toxins are for 4 cookies, or I think that's the serving, 4 cookies per day. If everything else you eat has no added chemicals. How many people, and I'm not saying me, but how many people eat prepackaged food more than once a day? Just saying. So folks, please don't try and correct me and say that MSG is not the boogeyman, because chemically altered and created MSG is something I avoid at all costs, along with things like aspartame and yellow prussiate of soda and all these chemical additives. If I don't know what they are, or if my grandmother, God rest her soul, wouldn't recognize what the hell the ingredient is, I won't use it. This is the Mrs. Wolfe from What's Going On, saying, I'm just saying, you don't have to, you can let the wool be pulled over your eyes, or you can do the research and be honest in your research. Because if the wool's being pulled over your eyes, it's because you're allowing that to happen. Take care. Bye-bye.